the parts department profit is 22% on a new part. How much does the part cost if the selling price is $275.85? Okay, so this is basically a rate problem or a percentage problem. So we need to understand there's two types of rates that we're going to deal with. We're going to deal with one, rates that are less than one, and rates that are greater than one. So what's an example of a rate that's less than one? We'd have a rate that's less than one if I got a discount. If I only had to pay 60% of the cost, that would be a rate that's less than one. An example of a rate that's greater than one is if I had to pay sales tax on an item that I bought. Then instead of, because this 60% is 0.60, that's where I get that from. So if it's something that I have to pay tax on, I'm multiplying essentially by 1. I'm getting back the 100 and times the 8% sales tax. So this is greater than 1. All right, so these two scenarios are what you will run into every single time with a percentage problem. Okay, so we have this right here. So here's our two scenarios. So the first one is when it's less than 1, we're going to have the whole times the rate equals part of the whole. Just like I'm only paying for a part because I got a discount off of it. The other scenario is the whole times the rate. I get the whole back because I'm going to multiply by 1. Anything multiplied by 1 is going to return that exact same value plus part. I'm going to get a number that's going to be bigger than the original whole. We'll look at a couple examples of that right here. So here's our first example right here. I have 80 engines. I have 30% of them have an issue. So how could I solve this problem? So what I could do is take my whole, which is all of the engines that I have. So I'd have 80 times, change this percentage into a decimal, so move it 2 spots to the left, and I'd have times 0.3, and that would mean that I have 24 engines that have damage to it. So that would be an example of the rate being less than 1. 0.3 is less than 1. Another example would be the rate is greater than 1. Here's one. So I go to a restaurant, and I get a bill, and my bill is $107.23, but I also have to tip on top of that, and I'm going to be generous and tip 20%. So what's my whole bill? My whole bill is $107.23. I'm going to multiply it by a rate that's greater than 1. So when I multiply 1 times $107.23, $107.23, when I do that, I get the whole back. That's when I get the whole back. And then whenever I multiply by, change this to a decimal, 1, 2, multiply by 1.2, I'm multiplying by a number greater than 1. I'm going to get the whole back plus part, and that's going to be a total of 128.676 or 128.67. So again, in this number is baked in the whole because I multiplied by the 1. So that's the part people get the most confused about. All right, so let's go to the problem, which is here. And this says the parts department, well, it makes a profit of 22%. So you have that. So you have this part over here. Here's a part. It says for sale. And here's my part, whatever it is. I'm selling this part. It looks like some sort of expensive bolt. $275.85. So this is what I charge customers for. That is not the part I paid for. I'm going to buy it for less and sell it for more so I can make a profit, right? So the selling price, I have to realize, is the whole plus the part. So we're using the whole plus the part, right? And then we have our rate, that is our profit, and then it's going to be multiplied by the whole, and that's what we buy it for. In this case, it's actually our wholesale cost, but that does not mean the whole like this. Okay, so what we want to figure out is our wholesale cost. We're going to multiply it by the rate, and we're going to get what we paid for it, the whole, plus our markup. So we already know that number is $275.85. And we know that our markup is 22%, so we need to change that into a decimal. 1, 2, we got 0.22, but we need to recoup the cost we paid for that part, and that's where this 1 comes. The 1 is going to recoup our cost. So if I multiply what I paid for it wholesale times 1, which will give me back what I paid for it wholesale, plus the 22% markup. So I just use algebra, solve this problem, divide by 1.22, divide by 1.22, and I get the wholesale cost of this part coming out to be $226.11 when I round up.